Hey there, welcome to Gimme Empathy. It's my podcast where I talk to people about things and their lives and how they relate to the world and themselves and others and me a bit. I'm your host, Scott Mercer, and I've had a huge couple of weeks, continuing to get huge. I've been doing a lot of musical stuff, been out most nights, doing some big living, putting a lot into every day and every night, not watching a lot of TV, just doing the work of life. It's funny, like I remember when you're younger, there are so many arbitrary responsibilities put on you when you're at school and you're living with your parents. You be here and do this assignment and do these chores and go to this thing. And then like when you get older and you're out on your own, actually I'm not sure, I should ask some people about this, but I have tended to, much as I hated, deadlines and all through school and uni, I seem to have just gotten to a place where I make them for myself now. With all these things I do, which are fun and great and rewarding, but do generate a never-ending series of places to go to and things to get ready for. I'm not complaining, I don't think, but it is. But there is a strain associated with it. Today, this morning, I thought I broke my toe for a minute because I was just hobbling about my house, as I do in the morning, getting ready. And one of the problems in having muscular dystrophy is foot drop, meaning I can't raise the heel in my right foot above 180 degrees. So my foot tends to drag a lot, and I wear a thing on my shoe when I'm out and about to counter that. But when I'm at home and I'm barefoot, I tend to hobble about a bit. And this morning, I just banged my little toe really hard on the floor. And it was hurting all day, and I was Googling, how do you know when your toe is broken? And I don't think it's broken because it hasn't swollen a lot, and it's not discolored, and it seems to be hurting less now. But I just thought today, like, if my toe is broken, that is the absolute last thing I need right now. I don't need another thing I have to take care of when I have so many fun things I do with other people. One of these fun things I'm doing to take up my time is getting involved in another band. I think I'm in 3 at the moment. And this leads me to today's guest, Harley Young. Harley is a musician. He plays music with his wife, Philippa, and I play guitar in his backing band, the Haymakers. So you may have heard the episodes I had with all the members of my former band, Go-Go Fish. That's Ash Shanahan, Murray Bowler, and Angela Hibbard. And together we also formed the Haymakers. So we would do our Go-Go Fish stuff and then also Harley's stuff, backing him and Philippa. And the band broke up 2.5 years ago when everyone went overseas. But Harley and Philippa are back now, and we're putting the band back together. We're playing a show this Saturday at the Triffid, and we're looking to record a new album in February. It's really fun getting to play music with and hang out with Harley again. Harley's a funny one. I had him on my radio show once before, just as a co-host. And for a guy who's the lead singer at a band, he tends to get a little nervous around microphones in some contexts. He was, I think he took a while to kind of ease into this interview, but I'm very glad we had this chat because we get to some real stuff about what podcasting is meant to be about, which is resolving long simmering beefs with people close to you. At the end, we go into an event that happened at a gig we played in Newcastle on the last Harley and the Haymakers tour. That does not necessarily reflect well on me, but I've made my peace with it, and it's definitely a good story. And Harley and I had never really talked about this incident since it happened, so I think it's good we got it all out there, and it's sorted now. So please enjoy episode 22 of Gimme Empathy with Harley Young. Was it easy to get Vegemite in Europe?
No, it's actually really hard to get Vegemite, especially in France. So whenever there were other Australian expats, we were all it was big coveted, the Vegemite. So
Yeah.
if anyone had an extra jar, it'd be a very nice thing to do to share it until you get your next one. So.
Like getting cigarettes in a POW camp or something.
Yeah. They were a currency amongst expats.
Harley, how do we know each other?
So we first met, I went to a early go-go fish when you guys were a two-piece.
Yes.
Yes. I saw you at, was it the Crowbar in the city? Was it? No, what was the name of it?
It was the place with its now Crowbar. Then it was called Basement 235 or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really liked you guys. And that was just before I was leaving for Canada.
We were playing with Jeremy that night.
Yep.
So you're there because you're mates with Jeremy.
Yep.
So you're there to see him. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. It was really good. I really loved it. But we had that great chat and had a few drinks, and then I took off for Canada pretty much almost a couple of weeks after that or something. Yeah.
I don't actually remember meeting you there.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
What I remember before you went to Canada is I was out one night. I saw Velociraptor play, and afterwards I was just tagging along with Jeremy as he went about his social night, and we went out to your going away party.
That's right.
And I remember that's the first time I remember meeting you there, I think. And you were like giving away a bunch of shit, like
That's
CDs
right.
and musical equipment.
Yep, mic stands.
Yeah, I've still got, I think, your harmonica holder.
Oh, yes.
If you ever need that back, if you ever
No.
back to Dylan mode.
No, honestly, yeah, my Dylan days are done and dusted, so.
And then from there, you said you were playing one more gig at the Indooroopilly Library before you left.
That's right. Yeah,
and I
forgot
went
about
to that.
Yep.
Yeah, and so, I guess that would have been the first time I saw you play. And from memory, you sang really bad.
Oh, probably.
I remember it being like really out of tune for some reason.
Really? Wow. It's so funny because you can't hear the sound of your own voice when you're singing.
Yeah.
And I always think that I hit the notes most of the time, but maybe it was just a really off performance.
And like being in the library, I'm sure they probably didn't have a foldback or anything.
Nothing.
But I did like the songs.
There you go. Well, that's good. That's the important thing.
So, and this would have been what, like 5 years ago now or something?
Yeah.
We first met.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then you moved overseas for a few years to Canada.
Yeah.
And while you were gone, as part of my due diligence in getting to know local people and their music, I was actually listening to your stuff that you'd put up, like My Social Debut and what was the other EP?
I think that was, I had that. That's it, I think. That was,
Was Ghost Trap on that?
No, I put that out when I was in Canada.
Oh, well, I heard that one as well.
So, yeah.
So how come you went to Canada?
So, my wife, Philippa, as you know her, she had a job opportunity over there. So originally, there was a Quebecois girl who was working at QT, and she went back to Quebec, and she was the manager of a lab there. So Philippa, she's a scientist, and she just contacted us and said, "Hey, do you want a job, a research position in Quebec for 2 years? I got a postdoctorate, and I'd really like you to work on this project." And Philippa was a little hesitant. I just thought, why not? It'll be a great opportunity, and it really was. It was one of those life-changing things that I've done. So.
And what were you doing for work at that time?
So I was working at Corrective Services in the legal department, just doing some. I was working there at the time, and then just quit my job and went straight over there, and it was really great. It was just a big life change.
You were there for how many years?
2 years.
2 years, and you kept up music and stuff over there.
I think that's where my music sort of blossomed, for want of a better word, where I felt like I was able to really be me and find myself with my music away from everyone else.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
So do you think because no one would have had any expectations, you're just this alien from Australia, and like you don't have all your friends and family who know everything about you, and you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like, I was listening to 4ZZZ, and they were doing an interview with Matthew Collins. He's he was a Brisbane musician. I think he's moved to Melbourne now, but he went to Canada. And he had this great quote. He said, when you go and live in another country, you're able to be the person that you want to be in the moment. And everybody else who meets you, you're not defined by who you were for the last 25 years. It's very liberating. Yeah.
That's part of why, I think I've lived in Brisbane all my life, but I would like to live somewhere else at some point. And part of it is definitely that, I think.
Yeah, it's true. It's really true.
So then you came back to Brisbane, and I got a message out of the blue from you shortly before that, saying that you were looking for a backing band, I think. Well, were you looking for a backing band or someone to tour with?
We were looking for someone to tour with.
Right, okay.
And we were talking about the idea of maybe doing a van tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody does van tours. I really want to do a tour in a van. And it just sort of happened, I think, that I thought maybe you guys could learn like two or three of my songs, and then we ended up doing that tour and it grew into something else. So
Were you messaging like a bunch of people, like looking for bands to tour with?
no, I only messaged you guys.
Really?
I'm not even kidding.
What? Well, I mean, we barely knew each other before you left. What made you message me?
I just really liked your music.
So you'd listen to it as well?
Yeah, I really liked Go Go Fish.
Yeah.
And I just thought these guys would be really great to tour with, and you just seemed like a nice bunch. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I was lucky that you guys said yes.
Yeah, so you came back in, let me think, early 2014?
Yeah, 2014, March 2014. No, yeah, March 2014.
Yeah, and so my band Go Go Fish, then we learned a few of your songs for the tour, and we were going to play them as your backing band. So you and Philippa did most of the set as a duo, and then we did 3 songs with you at the end, including your latest single, She's on the Wires. And and then we went on tour in March or April, I guess.
That's right, April.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we got back from tour, and you asked us to be your backing band full time.
Yeah.
And we were all like, yeah, that's great.
I was really shy about it. It was like asking someone out. I was like, oh, how do I approach it? I know they enjoyed touring, but would they really want to record an album with me? And
Well, the courtship, I think on the road, like on tour, we all got along so well.
yeah, we did. It was good times.
And I don't think anyone was hesitant at all about jumping on board for that.
No, it was really good. I think we were a really fun band together.
So we recorded the album.
Recorded the album with Sean, and that was really a great experience, because most of the recordings that I did, all the other recordings like the Suburb on tapes and all of that, I sort of just did that with one producer, and we'd both nut out the instruments, and I'd do about 1,000 takes on lead guitar, and then I'd chop that out the best and piece it together. So that was the first time I was able to properly do a full recording with a band, and it was just great fun.
You've talked a lot about this album. It's one I know you were thinking about for many years, Flinders Parade, and it's all about Sandgate.
Pretty much, yeah.
Why did you write an album about Sandgate, Harley?
It's just that most of my music is tied to place, and I like music that's tied to place somehow. And for me, I guess I've lived my whole life in Sandgate, and there's just a real connection to the suburb. I really can't explain the reason why I felt a necessity to write an album about Sandgate, but I just felt like I needed to capture this feeling that I experienced when I went back to my hometown all the time, and the weight of those emotions that are tied up in that place.
Increasingly, I guess, over the past few years, I put more and more like local specific references into a few of my songs. And for me, part of that is just a bit of a fuck you to the rest of the musical monoculture that's all about, New York and LA and America in general, or even like more specifically like Melbourne bands and stuff like that, mentioning Brunswick and all that. And I'm like, Highgate Hill, fucker.
Yeah.
Is there any of that for you?
Well, yeah, I like really esoteric music and things. The smaller the idea, the better, and the more I like it. It's like my favorite sort of music is music that's very particular or It's like being let in on a really big secret, but only a few people know the secret. I just think it's a really special thing to write about something that no one else is willing to write about or wanting to write about. You just pick a small theme or a small place, and that's what I liked about writing a lot about Sandgate, because I figured no one else is going to. So,
And there were some real people you put into those songs. Did anyone like pick up on that and go like, "Hey, that's me"?
thankfully, no.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but there are some real characters all throughout the album, even people that I don't know personally, but around Sandgate. Yeah, there's some references there that I haven't explained to anyone. I just keep them to myself.
And so we recorded the album, did another 2 tours, I think.
Yeah, 3 tours in 1 year.
Yeah, in 12 months, I
We were a
guess.
busy band.
We were,
Yeah.
briefly. And then you and Philippa went to Europe. So we broke up the band, and then Go-Go Fish broke up at the same time as well.
Yeah.
Because Ange moved to Japan.
Married to New York.
Married to New York, yeah. So then you were gone for a couple more years, 2 more years,
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
And now you're back.
Now I'm back at the gate.
And we've done a similar thing to what we did the first time, because we've got some shows coming up, and we're recording another album.
Yeah.
So the ones of us back here, me and Ash and Murray, and now with Luke, because Murray's not going to be here for the Christmas show. So we've been practicing in the lead up to when you get back, all these new songs. It's so much like the first time. It's exactly what we did the first time.
It's so funny because I got the same feelings about everything about coming back. I'm going 100 miles an hour in my head, and everything's sort of really piecing together just like when we first came back, and hopefully we can create the same magic. So, yeah.
So like that's where we're up to now. That's
Yep.
how we know each other. But like, I don't think I've ever really asked you that much about your life before we kind of got together and made music. Here's the things I know about pre-Van Harley. So
Okay.
grew up in Sandgate, did law, at some point met Philippa. I have no idea when, no idea how. At some point had another band called Ridgeback County where Jeremy played bass.
Yep.
Okay, let's fill in some of these blanks. What kind of kid were you in school?
I was the little grunge kid who was obsessed with Nirvana.
Grunge kid,
Yep.
wow.
Yep. But there weren't any other Nirvana kids at my school, really. Not that I knew of anyway. Maybe I linked up with the wrong groups. But then, see, I had a bit of a huge turnaround in my life at school. I think there were probably 2 really critical points that changed me. And one was my mum had a really severe health crisis when I was 16, and that kind of really destabilized everything for me and made me question a lot of things about where I was going and where I wanted to be. And before that, I didn't really have any direction. And I was just and I've always been a real dreamer, I guess. But when that did happen, I just sort of clung to books for just to give me something to hold on to.
Before that, like, were you like a naughty kid? Were you acting out and that
You
kind
know
of thing?
what? I wasn't even one of the cool naughty kids. I was just a spaced out dork,
Yeah.
I think. Really just like would daydream a lot and didn't really interact with a lot of people either. I think I was a little bit of a lost kid for a while. And it kind of, as I got older, I've just found myself and found what interests me and got into music when I was, probably from when I was about 13. I used to really got into my music, and that was probably the only thing that I cared about for quite a while. And then came law. I just really, really enjoyed the law, the rule of law and policy, and that is my other passion as well. It's so strange because they're 2 very different things.
Well, hang on. What was the second big thing in your childhood that you think affected you?
It wasn't actually my childhood, but it was moving to Quebec. That just
Oh, right.
2
Just in
big
your life.
things.
Yeah.
So that it was one was when I was about 16, my mum had that health crisis, and then and that sort of just threw me into studies, and that sent me on this law path. And then the other big thing was moving to Quebec. It just had a real left an indelible mark on my personality and changed. I think it changed too the way I am.
So when you started knuckling down academically, did you become more social as well?
I don't think I did. No, I threw myself into my books, and I think my social life came more when I went to uni.
Because like you're I consider you a very friendly and open and social kind of guy now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's come probably as I got older. I was about 17 onwards. And I was definitely more social when I went to uni.
Right.
I love a good drink. And now I'm pretty sociable, pretty garrulous sort of a guy.
So you do like the uni bar culture.
Yeah, I got right into getting drunk and vomiting everywhere.
Yeah.
It was good fun.
Where'd you go to uni?
I went to Griffith.
Griffith, yeah.
Yep, super
Yeah.
TAFE. No.
You want more tea?
Oh, yes. You have always been and always will be the sunshine of my life. Thank you for being you.
Oh, your mum sends the sweetest text.
Yeah, she's always sending texts like this. She's very sweet, but she's also a pain, but I love her. That's parents.
Do you want to read out the last one you just got from her?
Oh, yeah. Hi, Harley. Can you do me a song called Inside Out and Back to Front? It's a good name for the life of clothes. Bit jumbled like me. Thanks for when you get more time to songwrite later. Have a good day. It's lovely to see you, Mum.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, she's very sweet.
How'd your parents go while you were overseas all those years?
Yeah, I think they missed me, probably like most parents. I'm sure Murray's parents and Andrew's parents were hounding them too. But yeah, that's parents. So
You've got a brother, right?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is he still like in the area?
He is. He's in Caboolture now. He bought a house there, and he's doing well. He's great. He's we're very different, but we're very close. He's got a kid now. I've got a little nephew who I've just met coming back now. He's super cute, and it's great. It's really great to reconnect with family and everything like that.
How did you meet Philippa?
I remember our good friend Amanda, who's from Sandgate. Well, she used to work at Sandgate, and we go out drinking in Sandgate all the time. It was her birthday party, and it was in the valley, and I was nearly not going to go. I was going to catch I finished really late at work, and I thought, I'll have to go home, have a shower, then come out, and then go out. I'm just going to be so tired. And I nearly not went, but then I did. And Philippa was nearly not going to go as well. And then we ended up making out at the depot. So, yeah. Yep.
Classic.
Yep.
But eventually, I guess you went on a date and got to know each other as well.
Yeah. So after we sort of hooked up at my friend's birthday party, we then met at Big Day Out. So we were both going to Big Day Out. So we went and hung out while we were there and saw some bands.
Who was there that year?
I honestly cannot remember for the life of me. Isn't that bizarre? But I also remember seeing Jeremy at the same Big Day Out as well. So, because I remember we were having a chat about our girlfriends. And I remember thinking, yeah, it's strange, but I've got a girlfriend now. So that's...
Had you not really had like a serious girlfriend before that?
Not really, no, not a serious one. I had the on and off dates with people, and that was always fun, but no, I never really had a serious girlfriend before Philippa.
What was it about her?
She was really pretty, and I mean, that was always helpful. I don't know, I just liked her from the start. She's also, I can be a bit disorganized sometimes, and she's very organized in her ways, and I feel like it's so cheesy, it's such a cliche, but she really is the yin to my yang. So I think she's quite different to how I am, and that's what attracted me. And I think that's what attracted us to each other, that we were both very different, and I saw things in her that I aspired to be like, but that I'm not like in general, and vice versa.
I guess even in those kind of cases, even if it's not something that you could ever be like, you can still have that in your life by
Yeah.
being with a person like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was she playing music when you met her?
She was. So she did a lot of orchestra stuff. So she was playing in the Queensland Youth Orchestra, and she was also playing in another orchestra, St. Lucia Orchestra. And so she did a lot of that. And then I sort of tried pushing her into more, getting her to join my band and stuff like that. So
Was she in Ridgeback County?
she was in Ridgeback County.
And you've been playing together ever since?
Yeah.
In all the
we have.
bands, or when you're just, doing house parties across Canada as a duo?
Yeah, I feel like we play as a duo now more than I ever play as a solo. It feels weird when I don't play with her. So yeah, so I think our first official date was fish and chips on the beachfront at Sandgate.
Oh, of course it was.
Yep. So yeah, and that was really great.
Was that from that one fish and chip shop where you knew the dude where we went that one time?
Yeah,
Where
Pacific Fish Bar.
Yeah.
Yep, greatest fish and chip shop in Sandgate.
Did you ever figure out why he was cranky with us that day we were up there?
I think that he didn't know. Hang on, was he cranky with us?
Because that Harley and the Haymakers went up to Sandgate to the beach for a photo shoot one day, and Harley was like, "We got to come to this fish and chip shop. Like, it's legendary. I've been going there since I was a kid." And we went there, and like the guy was kind of short with you, I think, and you were trying to you didn't know why.
It's funny that you mentioned that because, you know what? I don't think he realized that I went overseas for 2 years.
Oh.
And he thought that I just basically stopped going to the fish and chip shop for 2 years. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I just come back and pretend that everything's normal.
With these 6 other people.
Yeah. So he didn't know. He thought that I'd abandoned him, but I was craving those fish and chips all throughout winter. So little did he know.
Did you make it right with him? Did you smooth it over?
I did, and then I had to explain that I was going away again. So just so that he knew that I wasn't abandoning the fish and chip shop. So
Have you been back now since you've been
I
back?
have, but I need to go back again. I've only been there once, and I definitely got to get my fish and chip quota up.
Well, we should all do that again. We should go up to Sandgate.
Anytime. I am up for. I said to Philippa, wouldn't it be great if we had like a writing retreat where like I got a couple of days where we're just like everyone's offline. We chill, we take in the atmosphere of Sandgate, and then we just spend some time writing. Philippa said we wouldn't be able to do it, but I thought maybe
I'd love that.
Yeah, honestly,
We've got holidays coming up.
If we can make the time, I think it'd just be amazing to like, even if we can just do 2, I'd love to do like 3 days or 4 days, but even if we could just fit 2 days in where we just like all just gel with each other, we have a bit of a practice and a jam. If I could get a space set up somewhere,
I guess that'd be the thing, somewhere you can put drums.
Yeah, and then really take the time to switch off from the outside world and then absorb ourselves in Sandgate as well, and the atmosphere and the beach and everything.
Because even though nowadays, in terms of urban development, it is connected to Brisbane, but when you go there, it's one of those places, it very much feels like a separate town.
Oh, it's really got its own separate identity.
Yeah.
And I think that most people who live there really do feel quite separate from the rest of Brisbane.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly do. Yeah.
The Gap's a bit like that as well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Does Philippa write songs with you?
She doesn't write, but she's got a great idea she's got really good ideas for helping me with songs. I'll present something to her, and 9 times out of 10, she'll be able to give me good pointers on like, that works, but maybe try this, or I don't think this works. You should work a bit harder on that. And I think she's got a really good ear for things. So I find a really good sounding board when I'm writing, and she gives me pretty good advice too. So,
did she sing before she was in your band?
She didn't sing, no.
Huh.
She didn't sing at all.
Was it hard to get her to sing?
It was at first it was, but I'm glad I did. So she's got it comes through really nice on recordings and everything. Yeah,
I think by this point, like with the EP you did in the UK, EP Phone Home, it was just you and Philippa, and it was like, they've they've nailed it.
Yeah.
On this one finally.
I think we did. We really did as the duo. We nailed it with that EP. It's just got a really nice, natural sounding voice. I feel like some people have got really beautiful, powerful voices, but some people can have like voices that sound a bit generic, or it's just that. Yes, of course, that's a beautiful, powerful voice, but it just sounds like every other beautiful, powerful voice I hear. Whereas with Philip, I think it's really a distinct voice.
Did she ever want to like do her own songs or?
No, she doesn't really feel the need to do her own songs, or never really get. I think she's happy doing songs with me. If she ever wanted to, I'd definitely love to encourage that, but it's just not something that I've sort of found with her.
So was Ridgeback County your first band?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was. Me and Jeremy, I feel like it was a good starting band, but I've sort of grown so much as a songwriter since then. And I was such a different person with Ridgeback County than I am now. I don't know. It's kind of like that. I loved the friendship and the times with Ridgeback County, but
it's you just can't cringe at your own early work. Yeah,
you do a little bit.
Well, it kind of had a country rock, like the Stones country rock kind of thing to it.
Yeah, I was kind of really obsessed with the Rolling Stones, and I still love the Rolling Stones, but I was just trying to emulate them, I think, sometimes. Yeah, there's better things to do than try and start a Stones rock band. So,
well, how did you meet Jeremy?
We, just from word of mouth through Sandgate, I think.
Through Sandgate?
Yeah.
What was it? What do you have to do with Sandgate?
Because he went to Nashville State School, Brackenridge State School. So he was a 401-7er. And Brad, the drummer.
B-Rad. Of B-Rad's Helibus.
Of B-Rad's Helibus, yep. So he went to school with Jeremy, and Brad pushed trolleys at the Sandgate Woolworths, and that's how I met Brad. And then I met Jeremy through Brad when we were about 17, like just before we turned 18. I think we'd all finished school. And yeah, that's how I met Jez.
Has it been like a bit of a trip to watch him through the years?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because he's always just been, it's almost like with Jeremy with his music, and he's done so well and he's really kind of skyrocketed, but he's always just Jez to me. It's funny. So
you and Philippa got married shortly before you went to the UK. Me and Ash and Ange went to your backyard wedding.
Yep.
I'm not sure where Murray was. He might have been travelling already, actually. I don't remember.
He's always missing all the important dates.
That was lovely. And did you always want to get married in Sandgate?
I don't know. I guess I never really thought about getting married at all, to be honest. We were going to just not get married and just stay together. But then coming back from Quebec, I just really wanted to get married. So I asked her and she said yes, and we said, "Oh, why not?
How did you propose? What were the circumstances?
Well, so
are you a dramatic gesture kind of guy, or are you just over breakfast saying, "Hey, we should get married"?
So, it was sort of actually exactly in between the two.
Okay.
So we were leaving Quebec, and it was kind of a stressful time, and Philip was packing and unpacking and thinking of all the things we got to do before we leave, all the life admin stuff like closing accounts and stuff. And I'd bought a ring, and I've been planning to ask her, and I didn't know when to. But anyways, I ended up printing out this fake article. This just man proposes to his girlfriend in a coffee shop, and I did a stupid photo of myself with the ring, this mock-up article, and then I sticky taped it onto the inside of the newspaper that I bought for the day, and I said, "We're going out for breakfast." I thought, I want us to have a nice breakfast before we leave. And Philip was like, I'm so busy. Like, I said, I don't care. I want us to have a nice breakfast. You got to dress up. And she's like, okay, fine. So we go to breakfast and I'm reading the paper the whole time. And then she gets really cranky and she's like, oh, you make such a fuss about us going out for breakfast. And all you're doing is sitting there reading the paper. I'm sorry. It's just a really interesting article. And then I showed it to her and she was kind of in shock. And it felt like it was like a lifetime before she said yes, because she just was in such shock, but she was super happy as well, and we were both happy, and it was a great moment. Maybe a little cheesy, but it was still very nice. I loved it.
I love hearing about these really elaborate proposals that people do, because so often there are so many steps you have to go through to get your partner to go or be in a specific place that tends to piss them off. Like that's so out of character to insist on being in a certain place. No, just look over here. No, do this thing. No, open that box. Like, what are you doing? Like,
what are you scheming at? Yeah, it's quite funny.
Last time you're overseas, tell me about Paris.
So when we left Quebec, we came back for a year.
So you learned French while you were over there as well.
Yeah, so I learned French in Quebec, and we were just sort of thrown in the deep end with that. Didn't really have a choice because most people in Quebec City don't actually speak that much English, compared to Montreal at least. And so I learned Canadian French, and by the end of the 2 years I was fluent enough because I was working in French most of the time. And then we came back for a year and just really were itching to travel more. And we thought, why not go to another Francophone country? So we moved to Paris, or moved to France, and eventually traveled our way around France a little bit, and then stopped in Paris. Yeah, we lived there for a year. I found jobs at this place delivering picnics, and just got involved in the music community there, and everybody made fun of my Quebec French, but
right.
Yeah, we could still understand each other.
So how do you go about establishing yourself musically in a new city and like finding out where the cool venues are and the cool people?
It was kind of helpful when I got there that there was a label that contacted me a few weeks before I was even moving to France. They didn't know I was moving to France, and they said, hey, if you ever come to France, we'd love to work with you and organize a tour. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm actually moving to France in a couple of weeks, so that's really handy. And so I re-released Flinders Parade there and did a couple of tours, and that sort of enabled me to establish myself a little bit in France. I met a few other musicians and a few other bands there, but mostly other Australians or other people, like Nathan Roche, he's living over in Paris, and he's got this band called the Village Reef Underground, and we hung out a lot, and we were always drinking wine and eating duck and drinking by the canal. That was always good fun. So but there was another band, there was a French band, my friend Joanne and his band Mustang. They were like, I think they were kind of like a French rockabilly band, but I didn't completely embed myself in the scene there. Like in Quebec, I really was wholly embedded in the Quebec scene, and the Quebec City scene in particular. But in Paris, I was still sort of a bit of an outsider there, but I was still able to play plenty of shows, and that was always really good fun. And
you got caught up in the terrorist attacks there.
Yeah, that was actually really intense. Philippa was over here at the time in Australia, and I was in Paris on my own, because Philippa came over for a wedding, and I thought, oh, you know what? It's Friday night. I should go do something. Who's playing? And oh yeah, like Eagles of Death Metal. That sounds pretty cool. I've never seen them before, or maybe I'll go see them. It's only €14 or something. It was cheap. I had a shower and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm actually too tired. I'm just going to stay in tonight. And thank God I did, because I got a call from my friend and she was in tears and she was saying, are you out anywhere tonight? Where are you? There's been horrible shooting. And then I looked it up on the news and I just watched the whole thing unfold. And turns out the first shooting was actually 200 meters down the road from my apartment. I was watching Netflix with my headphones on at the time. Otherwise, I probably would have heard the gunshots. So I pretty much was locked in for 2 days after that in Paris. I went out and got a few supplies. But then I remember 2 days after, I thought I just felt so cooped up. And I was like, I just got to go out, get out and have a drink or something. So I ended up going out to Oberkampf, this area, and where there's a lot of cheap bars, and had a beer with my mate Nathan, actually, the other Australian there. And on my way home, I got lost and I was walking through Republic Square, and they were having this candlelight vigil, and I just didn't feel safe. I was like, there was still a shooter on the loose. And I thought, this is just not the place to be at the moment. So I tried sort of pushing through everyone so I could get home quickly. And that's when someone threw firecrackers into the crowd. And it sounded like machine gun fire. And everybody just panicked. People were screaming, running, pushing me over. I just bolted. I ended up running for like 10 minutes until I found this darkened hotel foyer. And these people let me in, and we hung out for a couple of hours in the dark until it was sort of established that it was just a mass panic caused by stupid teenagers. But for a moment there, I thought it sounded so real to me. But it was pretty intense time. Things still haven't properly settled down there.
Did that have an effect on why you came back to Australia?
No, it definitely didn't have an effect.
Or why you went to the UK after that?
No, it definitely didn't have an effect. Yeah. It was just my visa that otherwise I probably would have stayed in Paris longer. I really loved Paris. But yeah, our visa expired and we had to go somewhere else, and we still had a visa for the UK, so we thought, why not go to London? And so then, I got to London and was there for 9 months.
Do you reckon you're back in Australia for good now?
I think so. We've exhausted all our visa options. It's hard to settle down though. Once you start traveling lots, you do become restless pretty easily. So I'll see how I go, but I'm pretty sure we're pretty settled here. So
you thinking of kids yet?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to that age now.
You're already the mum and dad of the bands.
Yeah, and
in many ways.
My brother just had a kid, and my stepsister just had a kid, and they're lovely kids, and I really love kids. Honestly, I really love kids and having kids around. So, and Philippa too. So I think it's definitely something that'll possibly in the future, not too distant future.
Have you missed playing with a band as well?
Yeah, I miss playing with you guys. I really like the feeling of a band. I feel more confident, and I feel like a micro community when you play in a band. I feel like there's something much more powerful going on than just one person and their ideas. When you've got a whole band coming together, it's just something else.
Do you still take beta blockers before you perform?
I do. They're great.
Tell me about them.
So they block your fight or flight symptoms, and I use them for job interviews, or I use them for playing shows. They're just like, like a lot of different people take them. Actors take them, or lawyers take them, barristers. And basically, they're not a sedative or anything. They're just, so you're still quite alert. They just block your fight or flight symptoms. So you don't generally get a raised heart level or sweat or anything like that. You might feel nervous, but you won't have any physical symptoms relating to nervousness.
Did you find, before you found beta blockers, were you having that kind of thing when you performed?
Yeah, I used to. Now I don't really so much. I'll take beta blockers before a big show, or if I'm just not feeling it. But now I think as you get older, you just give less of a shit what people think, or I just don't seem to care if someone likes or dislikes my music anymore. It just doesn't matter, and that's everyone. If you get a bad review, then what of it? You just got if you're worried about getting a bad review, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You should just do it for the joy of playing music.
I think they've done some sort of trials somewhere. I'll have to look this up. That there's like scientifically, as people age, they genuinely give less of a fuck about what other people think of them, and that's why some elderly people like appear so obnoxious. But it's because like that part of their brain just actually wears away that cares what other people think, which is kind of liberating, really.
That's just great news. It's just things can only go up from here. So,
what does it feel like when you don't take them? Like, what is that physical? Because, I don't really get stage fright much or ever. I can't remember maybe I did like with theatre stuff when I was a teenager or something. But I understand being nervous before a show, like if it's a high stakes thing, if there's someone in the audience. But what is that physical fight or flight thing? What's that feel like?
I guess there's a great Jonathan Richman song off his new album, and it's called But Then Ego Went Away. And he's singing about something about the ego. And I think it kind of makes a lot of sense, where ego can make you feel like either you're not good enough or that you're better than people. And it sort of screws with your balance when you're in a social situation. And I feel like if you let ego get in the way of a performance, and what I mean by that is what you step up and you think, everyone thinks I'm shit. You might have an internal conversation and it might be like, everyone thinks I'm shit. No, they don't. Don't tell yourself that. Why do you care anyway? And it's really just about quietening that noise down before you get on stage. You shouldn't really think or care about those things. But occasionally, you do. It does pop up.
Did you take beta blockers this morning?
No, not at all. No. But I had a job interview yesterday, so I did take them for that. Yeah.
What gigs have made you the most nervous?
I think the cooler, hipper, younger crowd, the more intimidated I feel. And then the older and stiffer the crowd, the more intimidated I feel as well. If I got people who are just, I guess,
your age,
my age,
taggy clothes.
Yeah, like I
your
feel
style.
Like, yeah, like I feel like if they've got everyday clothes and they don't look supremely cool, then I feel more at ease. But I remember playing one show in Canada. It was the show went well, I think, but it was booked by this guy, and I can't remember exactly where it was. It was in the Maritimes on the East Coast, and he packed out this church, and it was amazing. It was this little chapel, and it was packed out with everyone being above 75. I'm not even kidding, but the lighting was terrible. It was just fluoro lights, bang, straight on. And so you're just like looking straight at the audience, and you're the youngest person in the room. And I felt like I couldn't connect or relate. And that's the hardest thing. If you feel like you can't connect or relate, it's a really hard thing to do. So you can feel nervous on stage, because that's your job when you're playing. You need to connect, which is why I started this Megabat project, where I've been getting up and doing I am karaoke style music that I'm writing, and as well as some spoken word and stream of consciousness lyrics, and just doing a lot of bizarre behavior. And I've found it to be incredibly liberating. It's probably the best creative thing that I've done, the most liberating creative thing that I've done. I remember seeing Calvin Johnson from K Records do a show, and it was very inspiring because he was just so odd. And everybody sort of comes to a show sometimes with their social anxieties and their hang-ups and everything like that, and it can be quite stiff. And he just broke down the whole room by becoming the weirdest person in the room and just made everyone feel at ease. And that's the way I feel like I've been doing it with this Megabat stuff that I've been doing lately. And when I've played these shows, I played a couple in Canada. It was such a great response because people had have this look, like their eyes looked so confused, but then they had this big smile on their face. And at the end, everyone's just dancing around and so relaxed. And I thought, this is what I need to do with everything. So
I did a solo show a bit like that recently, It's like the first time I played a solo show in years, and it was like unamplified, just in the back of a cafe. And like I don't think you can quite be yourself on stage unless you are a naturally super charismatic, interesting character. But what most people can do to be interesting is be a heightened version of yourself and do get a bit weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think people respond to characters better than they do actual people in performance.
Yeah, and I think people respond to something that, even if it is an exaggerated version of yourself, it's something that you're owning as yourself.
Oh yeah, it still has to be grounded in who you are. You can't. Yeah, it doesn't. You won't connect with them if it's not grounded in some way. But there does need to be an element of spectacle, even if it's just something a little bit off.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I can see that.
We had Robert Forster at one of our shows once. Were you really nervous when that happened?
No, it was all right.
Really?
Yeah, it's I didn't find him very intimidating or anything. He's just seemed like a funny guy. I think I only ever really feel intimidated when I feel like I can't connect with the person. I'm not saying I could just easily go up and be best buddies with Robert Force or whoever it might be. But I just feel like if someone's relatable or personable, I can easily feel at ease. But if it's someone that I feel is hard to get to know or puts up a wall somehow, then I can get a bit awkward or feel not at ease. And I feel like most of the time it doesn't matter who they are. If they're relatable, I'll feel at ease.
What's been the hardest show you ever played, do you reckon?
I reckon it was that chapel show to the old people.
Yeah?
So, yep, to the seniors. That was probably the hardest show I've ever played.
What about Newcastle?
Oh, Newcastle was our God, that was that was our nightmare show though, wasn't it? That was where everything, if we had a band doco, that would have been the breakdown point, the gold that everybody wanted to see.
Do you want to tell the story?
Yeah, okay. I was wondering if we were going to talk about that.
Well, I've told the story a couple of times, but I'd be interested to hear your perspective on it.
Well, okay.
So this was on the final tour we did. It was a joint Go-Go Fish, Harley Young and the Haymakers tour.
Yeah.
And we were just doing a couple dates around Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah, so looking back on it now, okay, well, I'll tell the story first, I suppose. So we had, and this is just from my perspective, we had this show booked in Newcastle. We got there and we were going to play the show. You and Murray weren't there at the time, but you were coming later. And I was chatting to the band, and they got up and played. But then we had this absolute fuckwit who kept messing with the sound. Can I say, I can say fuckwit on a podcast? I'm an adult. It's not illegal. Anyways, he kept screwing with the sound because they didn't have a sound guy for the night. And I said, dude, can you leave it alone, please? And he said, he just barged his way through and started playing with the sound equipment. And I said, leave it alone, please. Like, we've got the sound now. And he's like, I've been in the industry for 30 years. Trust me. And I said, no, just leave it. Get off. And he just would not listen to me. I said, leave it alone. Stop playing with it. Leave it. And the whole time while this band was playing, there was feedback and shit happening everywhere. If he just left the balance how it was.
And this guy didn't work there.
Didn't work there. Didn't belong there. Had no reason to be in the sound area messing with all our shit. Would not listen to me when I told him like number of times to leave it be. Finally blew up the PA system. I lost it and said, you fucked it now. None of us can play. You should have just left it. He shaped up to me and he said, you want to have a go, do you? You're going to fuck with me. And he just like stood over me and like he was ready to hit me, and I had to walk away. And so I walked away, and then meanwhile the band on stage went, this venue's fucked, we hate it, we're never playing here again, and then like threw one of the microphones down and like kicked something over, and they were all pissed off. And then the crowd, just from memory, I heard like, oh, from the crowd, like murmurs. And I was like, oh my God, what the fuck's happening? We just got to get out of here. This is like serious shit's going down and some of us are going to get in trouble. And so I thought, no, let's just pack up our shit and leave. And so we did. And I guess you guys came back, but you kind of missed all that side of the story and caught us leaving. And so I guess you didn't feel the vibe that we felt when we were leaving. You're like charging and ready to go. Let's just play anyway. And it's like, oh, no, please. Like we have to get out here. Something really bad's going to happen. And we went back and I suppose a lot of frustration. I feel like maybe a lot of band frustrations that we didn't speak about. And I honestly, like, genuinely wasn't aware of. It sort of bubbled over between us. And we had a big argument, screaming match in the back of the Backpackers. But mostly from all of that, I was kind of a bit taken aback at the band frustrations that perhaps I wasn't honestly not aware of. But now when I think about it and understanding other people's personalities, I can see that certain frustrations, like me not having a tuner or me saying, yeah, I'll organize shit and then not doing it 100% or not doing it for some things. I guess my only thing that I felt a bit bad about with that whole thing was that I don't know whether it was Murray or maybe you might have felt as well that I was trying to prioritize Harley's Young and the Haymakers over Go-Go Fish or anything like that. That was never like I wanted to communicate that to you guys. That was honestly just never my intentions. I agreed to do the whole tour organization. I think I just became overwhelmed with it and skipped a lot of important details, which really genuinely pissed you guys off as well.
Well, did we get to play our Haymakers set that night? Did we play earlier?
I think remember. We must have played first.
Yeah.
Then the middle band played.
And then Go-Go Fish were going to play.
Yeah, you guys were going to play last.
Yes.
And that's probably what added to it. And also the stolen microphones.
Yeah.
That was really the worst gig I've ever played in my life.
Well, I probably have a few details to add to that. So, because earlier in the day, we got a coach up from Sydney. And it was beautiful. We went over the Harbour Bridge and we were travelling up through so I remember on the coach, you got, I think either you called the venue or the venue called you or something. You were just hammering out details for the night.
Yeah.
And there was some drama.
A mess up with the booking. That's right. And we had to force our way onto the bill or...
Yeah, because I think they double booked it.
Yeah.
They just no, I remember. Because I think you hadn't communicated with them since November. Or something. Like you'd booked it back in November. This was February or March.
Yeah.
I think. And we were playing that night and they were like, we have no idea what you're talking about. What gig is this?
Yeah.
And so you did manage to convince them to put us both on.
Yeah.
But I think you were like scrambling, calling the local support for backline and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we were a bit, okay.
What's going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because... Well, even before all this, originally Go-Go Fish weren't going to be on that tour. Like we were just going to come as the Haymakers.
Yeah.
Because we were we were at the end of the life of that band by that. Like we knew we were going to break up when Murray and Ange went overseas anyway. Like we knew that was going to happen. We were like, do we really need to do another tour?
Yeah.
But you asked us because I guess maybe you're having trouble finding other bands to play with.
Oh no, I just did that because I thought you guys would enjoy that. It was I was happy not to, it was just like, oh well, you're going to be there anyway, if you might enjoy doing that. So
I guess it would have made sense on your end. But I think I guess that's where part of that perhaps misunderstanding started, because I thought you just were under the gun and couldn't find enough bands and we were doing you a favor by playing as Go-Go Fish as well.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way.
Right,
I thought of it as not necessarily doing you guys a favor, but I was just like, hey, like, I'll extend this. Like, why don't we just make it you guys as well? And I've already booked these dates. So like, and I'm sure that way you get like a book tour as well. And I didn't know if you didn't want to, or if it was going to be like extra work. I just thought it'd be fun. So
Right.
yeah,
Understandable. Yes.
Yeah.
So then we get to Newcastle and we hang out on the beach in the afternoon. So we do the Haymakers set at the pub, and then while the local support's going on, me, Murray, and Ange go to the Bottle-O, and then go to the basement kitchen at the Backpackers and get pissed up.
yeah,
And we're talking to there's like a guy who used to be in the Marines, and there's like a dude who keeps going to the bathroom and like throwing up his meal, and he's just been there all day, like eating, and like a bizarre, weird backpacker situation you find yourself in, getting drunk with some strange people. So it's about time for us to go on. So we staggered down to the venue. I think you and Philippa and Ash were there, and you were packing stuff up, and it was like, what's going on? What's going on? And you fill us in as, all this shit's gone down, we can't play, PA's blown up. And I think for like 5 minutes I was insisting, no, we'll do an instrumental set.
Yeah.
It'll be great. Go
Yeah.
Fish can still play. And you were
Yeah.
like, no. And Ash was like, no, just pack it all up. And I was like, oh, okay. So I go and pack all my shit up, and I'd brought 3 of my own microphones with us on the tour.
Yeah.
Because you'd found out with the venue, like someone didn't have their own mics or whatever. And like I couldn't find them anywhere. You know, slowly, like one by one, as everyone packed their stuff up, they're walking back to the hostel, until I was there like all alone looking under the stage for my 3 microphones, pissed as a newt. It was kind of frustrating. And then I think Ash was weighing out the front door. And as soon as I went out the front door without my mics, just with my guitar case, Ash was like, you right? Or, we're all good? And I'm like, yep. And something just instantly clicked in my mind. This is Harley's fault. And I stormed back to the hostel. I think I violently pushed the door open and walked right up to you and said, where the fuck are my mics?
Yeah, that was really intense. I had no idea. Like, I honestly, like, that was probably one of the bigger miscommunications that I've had with another human being before, where I'm not understanding where someone else was coming from, and you weren't understanding where I was coming from. Yeah, I just think it was just a big communication fuck up.
Yeah. And you were already feeling pretty bad. You were like slumped against a bunk bed, kind of, you're already bummed about everything that'd gone on, minus us. And then here I came in with my own beefs. And you and Philippa had been fighting as well earlier in the day.
Yeah.
There was some...
I can't remember what we were fighting about.
I think it was just like you were going to stay an extra day to do some tourist stuff, and we were going to fly back, and you just like couldn't agree on, whether were you going to sort out some tourist stuff to do, book it, or just come back with us. It just escalated into a thing even before the whole gig started.
Yeah.
And we were already kind of feeling awkward about mum and dad fighting, I think.
Yeah, we're trying to stay together for the kids,
Yeah. So I come back and I'm yelling at you, and like, I think, like Murray and Ash were maybe playing devil's advocate. I think Ange was a bit... I can't remember what Ange's position was, but I think Philippa was also a bit on my side as well, because the main thing was, I think, organisation.
Yeah, you know what? And Philippa, some people put great importance on little organisational details, that if something's like stuffs up, or, if something doesn't go according to plan, it can be a huge issue for some people. And that's like totally acceptable. Like Philippa's can be the same sometimes, where like, I guess for me, I never get frustrated by screw ups like that, but I totally can understand that other people do, and that it's really important.
Yeah. I think one of the things of agreeing to do the tour with you was like, because, organising a tour is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Let alone, organising a gig in your hometown's bad enough, let alone a tour, multiple dates, flights, accommodation, all that shit.
Yeah.
So I think and we kind of divvied it up on the previous 2 tours. And so my condition was, we'll do this tour, but you organise everything. And, that was probably the first mistake on my part, because, I should have known you better to put all that on you. That wasn't entirely fair.
Yeah.
And so when you fell short of that, there were a few organizational things on that tour, but yeah, it just kind of blew up. And like, it didn't, like, we weren't, when we say we were fighting, like there was not an insult thing. Like we weren't crew, but it was, you've done this, you've failed to do this,
and you also just like, well, maybe you shouldn't have been getting pissed in a basement. Maybe you should look after your own gear, which is entirely a valid point as well.
Yeah, like, I mean, I guess, like, I feel like it was a big misunderstanding. I must say, I was pretty hurt that, like, when you got so angry at me, but also I can understand your frustrations as well, especially now in hindsight when I look back. And one thing I have learnt is that everybody's different in terms of what's important to them and what's not important. And yeah, we're just both coming from two different perspectives. I just saw it as, we'll organize this. I'll organize this tour. If we didn't get a gig or something, we can just drink in a bar and that's okay. Or, whatever fucks up, that's okay. And even like just little things like, microphones, they're not cheap. But, if you would have just said to me, even like reasonably, hey, Harley, like I came along this tour and, I lost these microphones and really pissed about that. And could you like help me out? I've played for so long with you guys, and I would have just been like, of course, man, I'm sorry that all that fucked up. And I think it was just a combination of drunkenness and miscommunications, and it all just went to a boiling point. And
yeah, I don't think I can't remember any other time in my adult life I've actually blown up on someone like that. But I think part of the reason I did with you is actually because on some level, like I knew our relationship could take it as well. Because like, I love you like a brother, Harley. Like I really feel a very brotherly connection to you.
Oh, thanks, mate. That actually really means a lot to me.
And and I don't think I could have done that if it had been someone else in that situation who I didn't feel as close to.
Well, it's good to know that I invoke those emotions in other people. but yeah, I feel the same way, mate. And like, it is good that we're at that level in our relationship that we can have, we can be like that with each other, and that it's okay because we'll always be there for each other. So
there was also a bit of an element because, like, I normally keep that kind of shit very bottled up. Yeah, in that state, like, this is horrible, but it was fun as well to let all that go for once.
Yeah.
And actually just put it all out there, and I felt bad in the morning because like I was ready to, because you were like, okay, fine, I'll pay for the mics, let's just all go to sleep. And then like I climbed up into my bunk and like I think we hugged it out. I climbed into my bunk, closed my eyes. 10 minutes later, I wake up, run to the bathroom and vomit copiously.
Oh dear.
But in the morning, I felt a bit bad because like I was ready for us to, reset, but I think you were still feeling kind of bad and awkward.
I think I've still haven't. I'm glad we've talked about it because I did feel awkward and I felt like we probably needed to be talked about. I've never had a problem with the issues of that night, and I get where you were coming from, but I just I was really hurt by the way that you talked to me more than anything.
Well, I'm sorry about that. I definitely did not need to come at you that hard.
That's all right, mate. But I'm glad that you were honest about how you felt about things, because it would have been better than like letting that bubble over and growing a tumor. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we popped the tumor.
Yep. That's it.
Thank you, man.
No, that's all right. Yep.
Do you want to play a song?
Yes. Yeah, maybe I should. Okay.
Cool.
I had so much caffeine this morning. I'm just jacked up.
All right. So, Harley, what song are you going to play?
Okay, I'm going to play a new one. It's called Johnny Werewolf 99. I actually wrote this straight after the attacks in Paris. And I just sat down and I was really missing my family and really missing home. I think a lot of people write about love between, young love, but I feel like family is so much more powerful in terms of the love that you have between whether it's a long-term partner or brothers, or when you have a sense of family or whatever your idea of family is, there's just some really powerful emotions and great songwriting material there. Do you recall the storm that set our house on fire? I'm not one to lie, it really did. The lightning, it did strike. The neighbors on our right were drowning in their dressing gowns outside. The rain turned into hail and broke their bones. It's easy to forget when you're alone. Do you recall that night? We sat out on the front lawn as Dad lay sleeping by the TV light. And I swear we saw a werewolf in disguise. He walked past our house hiding his eyes. But he was just an old man going home. It's easy to forget when you're alone. With rubber soles on leather feet, we dragged these bones through jagged streets. We built these ties in honest homes, and it's easy to forget when you're alone. Do you remember when the drive from Deepwater Bend, we fought over a fish we caught that day? And when they took us home, we argued in the back streets and burned our bare feet standing on the road. And it was several days before we spoke. It's easy to forget when you're alone. With rubber soles on leather feet, we dragged these bones through jagged streets. We built these ties in honest homes, and it's easy to forget when you're alone.
Thanks, Harley.
Thanks, mate.
Let's get to band practice.
Yes.
Harley and I did indeed go to band practice straight after recording this. And we did also hug it out after we went through the Newcastle story again, by the way. So we're all good. If anyone else out there has a lingering resentments towards me, please contact me and we can hash it out in a public forum on this podcast, because I think that'll be really fun. Harley's material, you can find it all up on Bandcamp. So he did a few solo EPs before the first Harley and the Haymakers album. It's all up there. He's even got one song up for his new project, Megabat. There are a few bands on Bandcamp called Megabat. Harley's is the one at megabatqld.bandcamp.com. Harley's first band, Ridgeback County, still have a few songs up on Triple J Unearthed if you want to check that out as well. Hopefully he doesn't take them down when he hears this, because they are fascinating historical documents. We are playing the first full Harley and the Haymakers show in 2.5 years this Saturday, the 23rd of December 2017 for the Time Travellers, at the Trifford at Newstead here in Brisbane. At that same gig, I'm also playing a set with We All Want To, one of the other bands I'm in. And it is, in fact, just a huge lineup. We're also playing with the Gin Club, the Stress of Leisure, Morton, and Danny Widdicombe. So do get along to that. It's going to be a really, really cool night. Coming up next time on the podcast, I'm talking to Harley's wife, Philippa, which was a really, really great chat. And it was really interesting how much more relaxed Philippa was on the microphone. Even though Harley's like the lead singer and the center of attention in musically speaking normally. I really do like interviewing couples on subsequent episodes. I think the perspective it provides is really interesting. So stick around for that in 2 weeks. Check us out on Facebook, rate us on iTunes, Gimme Empathy Podcast, at Gimme Empathy Podcast on Instagram. Check me an email, gimmeempathypodcast@gmail.com. Really keen to hear your feedback. And until next time, stay brotherly.